I was just supposed to fix a pressure leak. That's it. In and out, 15 minutes, maybe 20 if the sealant mix was temperamental. My maintenance schedule didn't mention anything about her. Or that she'd be half out of something I still can't decide was clothing or skin. I stepped into her quarters and immediately felt it, the pull. Not metaphorical pull. Real, physical drag on my boots like someone had dialed the gravity up to. Let's see how fast we can crush a human spine. She was there in the center, 10 feet of gleaming bronze skin and curves that could cause minor traffic accidents on a planetary scale. And she was changing. At least, that's what my human brain screamed when I saw the way the upper part of her torso was bare and her lower half was wrapped in some shimmering, scale-like material that seemed to be peeling away on its own. She turned those molten gold eyes toward me and didn't cover herself. Instead, she said, with calm authority, "You are here to stabilize me." "Good. Come." I froze. My mouth tried to form the words. "I think you've got the wrong guy." But the gravity pulled me forward, or maybe it was her tone. She took my hands like I was a tool she already knew how to use, placed them against her lower abdomen, and said, "Hold firmly. Until the pulse subsides." Pulse? All I could feel was heat. And beneath my palms, a steady vibration, like a purring engine that kept threatening to rev higher. My brain tried to be professional, analyze the readings, assess the risk, but my mouth blurted, "You're very warm." She tilted her head. "Is that unusual for your species? Does it hinder your performance?" "Performance." I swallowed hard and shook my head. "No, I can perform." Then immediately wished I could crawl into an air duct and live there forever. Her expression softened into what I think was approval. "Good. Keep pressure steady. If you let go too soon, I will destabilize." I did not want to be responsible for destabilizing a 10-foot alien in the middle of her bedroom. So I held on. The vibration under my hands shifted, slow waves turning into shorter, quicker tremors. She closed her eyes and let out a low hum, and I swear the temperature jumped another degree. "I can feel the balance returning," she murmured. "Your touch aligns the core better than I expected. Most partners require hours of training before they can keep pace." "Partners?" My mouth opened to correct her, but she suddenly exhaled in a long, shuddering breath, and the pull on my boots eased. The whole room seemed to breathe with her. She stepped back, rolling her shoulders in a way that made the last of the shimmering skin armor fall to the floor in pieces. "There. Calibration complete." I tried to step away, but she caught my forearm. "You have done well, Anchor." "Anchor?" "It is the title for one who holds another steady in the change. From this day, you are mine as I am yours. My core will respond only to you now." That sounded serious. I laughed nervously, because that's what I do when I'm in over my head and my palms are still tingling from holding an alien's gravity gland. "Right. Well, glad I could, help." She looked utterly sincere. "You have saved me from collapse. Without stabilization, my mass could have shifted unpredictably. There might have been an implosion." An implosion. My brain latched onto that, picturing catastrophic structural failure, until she added with a smirk, "Or worse, an uncontrolled expansion. That can be messy." I had no idea if she was joking. I also had no idea how to leave without tripping over the pieces of discarded skin armor scattered like metallic petals on the floor. Before I could figure it out, she touched her chest with one enormous hand and bowed her head. "As my anchor, you will be honored among my people. You will attend my table, share my quarters, and refresh my core daily." "Refresh your..." I stopped myself. This had to be a cultural thing. A misunderstanding. I just needed to explain. She interrupted with a tone that brooked no argument. "It is our way. To deny it would dishonor us both." Great. I'd walked into a gravity malfunction and walked out married. Or at least bonded. Or something that involved daily contact. I nodded weakly, because my survival instincts told me not to provoke the 10-foot-tall woman whose muscles could probably bend a plasma conduit. Sure. Refreshing the core. Every day. Got it. She smiled then, slow, wide, and with a glint that suggested she knew exactly how red my face was under the station lighting. As I backed toward the door, I realized the pull wasn't just from the gravity anymore. The next morning, I thought maybe she'd forget. That maybe it had all been some intense, heat of the moment cultural mix-up and I could just quietly file the incident under weird jobs and never speak of it again. She didn't forget. I was halfway through fixing a coolant regulator when the station comm system crackled to life. Anchor, your presence is required. It wasn't even my name. Just Anchor. And everyone in earshot turned to look at me like I'd been caught smuggling contraband air. When I arrived at the central concourse, she was there, towering above the crowd, radiant in polished armor, and waving me over with one massive hand. My stabilizer, she called out. Loud. Way too loud. We must refresh before the day grows heavy. Conversations around us died instantly. A cluster of engineers suddenly found a very pressing reason to linger nearby. Someone actually whistled. I tried to smile like this was totally normal, and not the most mortifying moment of my life. She placed her palm against my chest, leaned down so her voice rumbled right into my ear, and said, "Your hands are steadier than most. The balance you gave me yesterday lasted longer than I expected." She pulled back, studying my face. "You must have great endurance." I choked on air. I try to keep in shape." "You will need to," she said, entirely serious. "The demands of proper stabilization are not small. Many burn out in the first cycles." Every single person within 10 meters was staring like they were trying not to laugh. And failing. I muttered something about needing to get back to work, but she caught my wrist and guided me toward a shaded alcove. "It will be quick," she assured me. "Just enough to keep the core from slipping." I'm pretty sure my face was the same color as the emergency warning lights by the time she pressed my hands against her again. There was that same humming vibration, the same warmth, and her same low hum of satisfaction. Except this time, we weren't alone. 3 other aliens walked by mid-process, gave approving nods, and one even said, "Fine form, human. She'll stay aligned for days." I tried to pretend I didn't hear it, but the Giantess beamed with pride. "They admire your technique. Few anchors can elicit such smooth transitions so quickly." When she finally released me, I stepped back like a man escaping a gravity well. "Right. Glad we're stable now." "You should be," she replied, tilting her head. "Your reputation grows. Already others have asked if you might assist them." I blinked. "Assist, what?" "No. I mean, this is a one-person job." Her eyes narrowed slightly, not in anger but in that way predators measure distance before pouncing. "Good. An anchor's loyalty must be exclusive. I would not share you." The way she said it left no room for misinterpretation. I nodded quickly, but inside I was screaming. For the rest of the shift, she shadowed me, claiming she needed to monitor my readiness. She loomed silently in the background while I fixed the hydraulic pump, and I could feel the weight of everyone's smirks. I heard someone mutter, "Must be nice," under their breath. By the end of the day, I was ready to crawl into my bunk and stay there until my next rotation, but she intercepted me at the hatch. "We must prepare for the banquet," she announced. "Banquet?" "A gathering of leaders," she explained. "They will expect a demonstration. It will show them that our bond is strong and that my core remains perfectly aligned under your care." My stomach dropped. "A demonstration?" "Yes," she said without hesitation. "You will perform before them." I actually stopped walking. "Perform? As in? She cut in smoothly. "You will show them how you stabilize me. They must see your skill. It will honor us both." There was no way to explain to her that humans did not generally demonstrate intimate physical procedures in front of hundreds of dignitaries. Or that half the station already thought I was involved in the galaxy's weirdest relationship. But I could see the determination in her eyes, the kind of determination that could bend metal. Saying no wasn't an option. So I just nodded slowly, already regretting every choice that had led me here. Good, she said, smiling in a way that made my pulse spike for all the wrong reasons. I will ensure the entire hall has a clear view. They should witness every careful motion. And with that, she left me standing there, wondering how the hell I was going to survive this without the station rumor mill catching fire. I had a feeling the answer was, I wouldn't. I had rehearsed at least a dozen escape plans before the banquet. Most involved fake engineering emergencies, sudden illness, or somehow locking myself in a maintenance shaft for 48 hours. None of them survived the reality of her showing up at my quarters in ceremonial armor, knocking on the bulkhead like she was announcing the arrival of royalty, because she was. She didn't wait for me to agree. One massive hand all but herded me toward the grand hall. The place was packed. Aliens of every size, color, and anatomy filled tiered seating around a central space that looked uncomfortably like an arena. At the far end, a dais bristled with high-ranking officials. She led me into the center, and the chatter quieted into an expectant hum. Behold, she announced, her voice carrying effortlessly. My anchor, whose touch holds my core in perfect balance. There was polite applause. And then every pair of eyes turned to me. I felt like I'd been shrink-wrapped in my own skin. She motioned for me to step closer. We will begin with standard alignment, she said, loud enough for the audience to hear. Do not hold back, show them your full strength. My brain screamed, this is insane. My hands moved anyway. The heat radiating from her was immediate, the low thrumming pulse under my palms stronger than I remembered. Her eyes half-lidded, she let out a satisfied sigh. Somewhere in the crowd, someone muttered an appreciative, "Oh," and I wanted to melt into the floor. The vibration intensified. She shifted her stance, drawing me closer, and the gravity around us thickened. A few nearby dignitaries grabbed onto rails as stray goblets rolled off tables and floated before clattering back down. She smiled. Yes, hold steady, keep the rhythm. If she realized how much that sounded like something else entirely, she gave no sign. My ears were burning, my shoulders tight, and still she guided me, tilting her hips, adjusting my grip like a craftsman fine-tuning a tool. A loud metallic crash rang out from somewhere in the back. One of the serving carts had tipped over. Several guests laughed. Someone actually clapped in time with the subtle swaying motion she'd coaxed me into. My humiliation was now interactive. And then it happened. The pulse under my hands surged all at once, a tidal wave of force that rippled through the entire hall. Plates rattled. Decorative banners swung. One particularly unfortunate platter of spiced fruit went airborne before scattering across the floor. She threw her head back, triumphant. Perfect stability restored. The audience erupted in applause. A tall, silver-skinned dignitary rose from his seat, calling down, "Truly impressive! Could you lend your abilities to my household?" Before I could sputter a refusal, she stepped between us, eyes narrowing. No. He is bound to me. One anchor per corps, always. There was an approving murmur from the crowd, as though I were some rare and valuable artifact. The questions started almost immediately. What techniques did I use? How did I train my endurance? Could my kind be taught? I stammered through non-answers, aware that half of them didn't care about the technicalities. They just enjoyed watching me squirm. Through it all, she stood beside me, one massive hand on my shoulder, radiating satisfaction. They are impressed, she said quietly. This will strengthen our standing among the clans. And it proves what I told you, your touch suits me better than any before. It was hard to tell if that was a compliment or a sentence. By the time the formalities wound down, my legs felt like I'd been hauling reactor coils all day. She finally released me, guiding me toward the exit while the dignitaries whispered and chuckled behind us. You performed well, she said, her tone warm. Tomorrow, we will attempt the extended cycle. I swallowed hard. Extended cycle? She smiled with all the slow confidence of someone who knew they had the upper hand. It requires more stamina. You will adapt. I have faith. Faith, sure. Dignity? Not so much. But as the hall doors closed behind us, and I heard the echo of alien voices praising my skill, I realized there was no going back. The whole station now believed I was the galaxy's foremost expert in whatever this was. And she was going to make sure I lived up to it. The next morning, I woke to the distinct sound of her voice outside my quarters, giving orders in that commanding tone that made doors open without touching them. By the time I'd stumbled into my boots, she was inside, a faint shimmer of heat in the air around her. Up, she said simply, as though I'd been slacking all night instead of trying to recover from yesterday's public ordeal. Before I could form a protest, she pressed a small, palm-sized device into my hands. New stabilizer, she explained, as though it were a gift. For extended cycle training. The thing hummed faintly, heavier than it looked, and the moment I touched it, the artificial gravity in my quarters shifted, tugging me sideways. She steadied me with one hand, the corners of her mouth twitching in amusement. Apparently, the extended cycle wasn't a single session, it was a sequence, with multiple phases that tested not just endurance, but timing, precision, and, in her words, willing adaptability. We began in slow pulses, her core's gravitational rhythm syncing with the device's erratic pull. The sensation was oddly hypnotic at first, then progressively more intense. By the fourth phase, my shoulders burned, my legs ached, and every adjustment required me to lean into her with deliberate force. She didn't let me slack. Each time my grip shifted too far or my breathing faltered, she would murmur corrections, her voice low but clear enough to send an entirely different kind of heat through my face. At one point, she told me to match her swell, and I nearly dropped the stabilizer entirely. I was starting to suspect she knew exactly what her words sounded like to a human ear. Halfway through, a soft chime announced visitors outside her chamber. Without missing a beat, she called for them to enter. In walked 3 of her clan's envoys, all eyes immediately drawn to the scene, me bracing against her, the stabilizer wedged between us, our bodies shifting in a slow, coordinated rhythm. One of them raised a brow ridge and murmured something that made the others snicker. She greeted them warmly, never pausing the alignment cycle, as though this kind of display was perfectly normal. Observe, she told them, how the anchor adapts to increased resistance. They stepped closer, examining the setup with far too much interest. One even asked if he could feel the human's grip strength for himself, which earned him a curt no. This bond is exclusive. By the time the visitors left, my shirt clung to me with sweat and the stabilizer felt twice as heavy as when we'd begun. She finally eased the cycle down, the sudden lightness making me stagger. She caught me easily, her hands firm around my arms. Better, she said with a satisfied nod. Tomorrow we double the duration. I groaned, but she only looked more amused. Do not pretend you dislike it. Your core is stronger already, and you respond faster to my shifts. I wanted to argue, but I couldn't deny there was a strange satisfaction in mastering the rhythm, and holding my ground when the gravity pulled hardest. It wasn't just about surviving her tests anymore. It was about proving I could match her, even in the most absurd circumstances. That night, as I tried to sleep, I realized the unbelievable part wasn't just walking in on her that first day. It was that somewhere along the way, I'd stopped planning my escape. The galaxy's most intimidating giantess thought I was the perfect partner for this bizarre, intimate ritual, and against all common sense, a part of me was starting to believe she might be right.